Alright, this video is to give you a little help if you're still wanting some on some of these factoring problems, just breaking them apart, solving, finding the solutions for the equation once you've done the factoring. I'm not going to do all the problems on here, but I'll try to pick out some of the select ones, maybe some that I think look like they could be a little tricky, or just some of the basics even to go through. Maybe even I'll start here with like letter C here just as a first example. I'm going to work down here just because I got a little more space. Change colors, and I'll even write the problem here again. So this first one looks to be u squared, oops, if I get the pen, u squared minus 8 equals 7u is this first one. Remember, just so to spell out some of our first steps, remember if you're trying to solve this by factoring, the first thing I gotta for sure do is have everything on one side, have this set equal to 0. So maybe first thing I'll do, draw on my line here as a reminder, but I'm gonna subtract 7u from both sides so that I get everything on one side, and then I get 0 on the right side here. So yep, I need to have that. So if you're in a situation you're not sure what to do, a lot of times with some of these first problems or some word problems, at some point you gotta get to this. You gotta get to a polynomial where you have all the individual terms, and it's got to be set equal to 0. Also important to notice I've got them in decreasing degree order, correct? Degree 2, this is really a degree 1, and then a constant is degree 0. So just a reminder about that, like I have to have them in decreasing degree to work, or degree order to work. If I don't, it's going to be a little trickier to factor. I'm going to write them one more time now, just to bring it down and not have that writing on there. Good. And then again, any of these problems, even if they have smaller numbers for what you have to find for factors or bigger numbers, it's still a big help. Nice thing is this one's just u squared, so it's just u and u. It'll start off for my two binomials, but even for the 8, you can think, okay, 1 and 8, 2 and 4. I've got to think of a combination that gets me to -7. So again, this one nice enough that I just have u squared, though I don't have any other numbers. These are the nice ones that we first learned to factor. So it's just going to be u and u. Let's see, I need to get to, like I said, -7. Ooh, 1 and 7, or sorry, 1 and 8 are factors that have a difference of 7. And since I need to have a negative number, or a positive and a negative for the signs anyway, I can see from this, I bet you there's a way to make that work. How about u minus 8 and u plus 1? I think that's going to get me to -7. Good, so my solutions are u equals 8 and -1. Okay, next one I'm going to pick out actually is the one right after that, which is letter D. I'm just going to do that one over on this side here. I see people having a little trouble with this problem typically. These ones that don't have as many terms in it when it's not a trinomial. I think people just get a little stuck on how do you get this started again when I just see these two things. That's it. That's all that's in the problem. M squared equals 11m. Well, again, going back to our steps, the first thing you still need to do, regardless, you know you're trying to solve this somehow, my first recommendation is first get everything on one side, get it set equal to 0. And so I'm going to subtract 11m from both sides to make that happen. It's going to cancel them out on this side, so I'll just have 0 over there, and then on this side, yep, I've just got, I guess, m squared minus 11m. No other constant in there, but that's totally fine. Still walking through our steps. Remember what I can do now. I've got them in decreasing degree order. That's good. And in terms of what I can factor out, just always your first step. Can I factor out just something, a monomial out of these terms? And yeah, you can just factor out an m. So we're going to start off by doing that. So I'm just going to factor out m, and that'll leave me with m minus 11. And you're going to find out, oh, that's it. That's the factor we need to do to get this solved. Because now as I look, okay, this isn't, neither of these are m squared, so they're linear terms. So yeah, this must be me getting to my answer now. What are my two values of m that I can plug in and make this equal to 0? 0 is one for the outside m here, and the other one's got to be positive 11. There are my two solutions for number 4. Some of those small but tricky ones. There's a good look at one of those. Okay, I'll do a couple more from this side still. I actually I'll pick out even still the next one, E, just because I can see that one being just a tricky one to set up. But once you've got it set up, I think you'll know what to do. 9a equals negative a squared minus 18. Just remember on problems like these, it really does help. One, we got to get it set equal to 0, but also be cognizant and think about how you're going to do that. I really want that leading coefficient, that a squared term, to be positive. And so probably the best move here is just to move everything to the left side. I'm going to add a squared to both sides, and I'm going to end up adding 18 to both sides. I'm going to move everything to the left in this case is what I could think. So a squared plus 9a plus 18 equals 0. And from here I think you'll be able to solve it. Now I've got it set up where it's just going to be a and a. So that's kind of nice, but that's, I guess, the initial trick for this one is making sure that you got to make that leading coefficient positive. So I would start out by adding in this case. 18, let's see, factors of 18 that get me to 9 would be 6 and 3. So a plus 6, a plus 3. So a equals negative 6 and negative 3. Okay, one more that I'll do on this side. I'll do letter G. I'm going to bring it down over here again where I have more space. I think it's at 3y squared plus 14y equals 5. Okay, good. Again, first thing I got to do to get this one started, like any of the problems here, I'll draw my line. And if I'm going to start by factoring and trying to solve by factoring, the one method we know how to solve these right now, I've got to get it set equal to 0. So first I got to subtract 5 from both sides. That'll give me 3y squared plus 14y minus 5 equals 0. Okay. Now I've got something where, unlike some of the first ones here, this is 3y squared, and I can't take anything out of all these terms, correct? I can't factor out a 2 or a 3 or any other number or a y. So I look to do that first, but if I can't, well, that tells me now I'm going to have to do some factoring into two binomials, and I've got to look at the factors that are possible for both a and c, both the numbers here and here, right? Nice enough, again, this one, as you've started to find out, if they have more combinations, well, then I got more options to check. But in this case, it's just 1 and 3 and 1 and 5. So nice ones that I can work with. I just got those two combinations, and that's it for each one. 3y and y. And now, taking a look at, again, talking about some strategies we talked about, I've got a bigger number here in the middle relatively to the other two numbers, right? 14. And what do you know? 3 times 5 gives me 15, which gets me pretty close to 14, right? So if I could just make that happen where I take 3 times the 5, well, that's going to be the case for the way I've got it set up right now for those to be the outside ones, then maybe I've got a chance at getting to that 14. So let's line it up like this first, and then we'll try it and see if it works. And of course, then the inside terms are the ones I'll multiply together here. The outside ones, yep, like we said, gives me 15y. The inside ones gives me 1y. And if I can just subtract those with the signs that I've got, then I'll get 14y, which is what I want. And I think that is going to work. Take a look at this. I've got minus 5 here, so I'll have one of each sign. This should be positive to get that positive 15y. This should be negative to get the negative 1y. And that is going to work for my factoring. So my solutions for this one, y equals 1/3. And y equals negative 5. There's my two solutions for that problem. Okay, picking out a couple on the right side now. Maybe I'll just start with the top one. I'll start with letter H. So 2x squared plus 10 equals 9x. So 2x squared plus 10 equals 9x for this first one. Again, first thing I got to do is get it set equal to 0. So I'm going to draw my line. I got to subtract 9x from both sides. And again, you've got to write them in decreasing degree order to have a good chance at factoring it correctly. So 2x squared, then here's where the minus 9x has got to go in, plus 10 equals 0. Good. Let's look at some combinations here. 2 is just 1 and 2, thank goodness. 10 gives me 1 and 10 and 2 and 5. So I'm going to have to play around with those combinations to figure out what's going to work. I can't factor out anything out of any of these, right? They're not all divisible by 2 or 3 or anything. There's no x's that I can divide out of there. Nope. So I just got to start going to my binomials here and saying 2x and x. And now looking and see what I can do. I do see from this one, nice enough though, this is just positive 10, right? So that tells me my signs will both be the same. They're both going to be negative signs. So that makes things a little bit easier too. I have to play around with the signs to figure out the combination. And I think I got to get to 9. Well, 10's already too big, right, to do that. So I don't think 1 and 10 are going to work. It's probably going to be 2 and 5 in some way. Just looking at it, kind of eyeballing it right now, I think this combination is going to work for me because 2x times 2 is going to give me negative 4x. And negative 5 times x gives me negative 5x. Yep, there we go. That gives me the negative 9x that I need. So this combination checks out. My solutions are going to be then 5 over 2 and 2. X equals positive 5 over 2 and 2. Okay, I feel like letter I is pretty similar, so I'm going to jump down to letter J and take a look at this one. Again, one of those smaller ones where there's just a couple things in it, not a lot. 9y squared equals 16, and that's it. All right, well, for sure, first thing I got to do is get everything on one side, right? Get it set equal to 0. So minus 16 to both sides. 9y squared minus 16 equals 0. Now, this one, crazy enough, is a binomial, right? There's only 2 terms, but there must be some way to factor, right? That's why it's in this worksheet and why it's in the problems that we're doing. So there must be some way. I can't take a 3 or 4 or anything out of here, or a y, so nothing I can do there. So there must still be just some way to factor it into 2 binomials. You'll find this here with certain problems. There's a couple patterns that show up that we'll work on more as this chapter goes on. But notice here as I list my factors, maybe it'll kind of become apparent here. 1 and 9, 3 and 3, 1 and 16, 2 and 8, 4 and 4, okay? Again, as you can see here, I've got 9y squared. Well, that's my leading coefficient term. And then I have my constant. There's no, like, middle term, right? It's like I'm missing that term that usually is in the middle to make my trinomial. So you kind of have to think to yourself, as opposed to even just being a small number, that must cancel out somehow, right? We don't even have it there. So taking a look at these combinations, what's going to make that cancel out? Well, hint, what's going to happen is by using the same numbers, by having some combination when I multiply that they end up canceling out. And you're going to find that if you use the numbers that are the same factors, watch what happens. So for 9, let's use 3y and 3y. And for 16, let's use 4 and 4. My sign, it's negative 16, right? So I have to have 1 plus and 1 minus. And so look what happens when I do my O and my I of FOIL. Well, this outside gives me negative 12y, and the inside gives me positive 12y. There you go. Okay, I got a little trick that we'll see more often too as we go, but something else still follows all our factoring rules, just kind of a pattern that shows up one time or sometimes when I don't see that middle term. Well, it must cancel out. Take a look then for factors that are the same. That happens. Good. So y equals 4/3 for one solution and negative 4/3 for my other solution. All right, I'll do 2 more problems. I think I'll do this one next, letter K. This one's got a few options, so maybe it'd be a good one to look at together. Oops, I can't see my number now, but what is that? It's 15. Okay, so this one is 15 plus 26d. 15 plus 26d equals negative 8d squared. Okay, again, first thing, let's get everything on one side. In this case, it makes sense to move it all to the left because I want that leading coefficient to be positive anyway. So it'll cancel here, I'll get 0, and I'll be able to align all this and have 8d squared positive, which is what I want. I'm also going to start rearranging those other 2 to make sure that I've got them in decreasing degree order. So plus 26d plus 15. Okay, good. Good start here at least. So 1 and 8, 2 and 4 for my options on this side. 1 and 15, 3 and 5. Okay. All right. Well, I've got kind of a little bit bigger number here in the middle, so that means my combinations could go either way. Again, just things that I'm thinking as I look through this right now, and things that you start to figure out as you do these. I don't feel like 1 and 15 is going to work because I'll have to multiply something by 15, no matter what it ends up being. And as I can see here for the signs, this is plus. All the signs are going to be addition signs. I'm going to have to add up whatever I've got. I just don't feel like that's going to be something that works. So my instinct right now is 1 and 15 won't work. We'll see, though. I could be wrong, but I haven't done this problem yet, but we'll see. 1 and 8, maybe. That's a little smaller. But I think I'm going to start with, since 15 kind of cancels out, I'm going to start with 3 and 5. And I'm going to start with 2 and 4. Let's try those combinations and see what starts to happen here. So if I do something like 2D and 4D, and I'll see if I can make something work with these, equals 0. Let's see, again, it's plus sign, so that means both the signs are the same, and they're going to be whatever this sign is, which is plus. Okay, and I got to put 3 and 5 in there somehow. Well, let's see, how about 5 and 3? Let's try it like this. Again, looking at my O and I of FOIL, I can multiply these two and these two. This gives me 10D for the outside, plus 12D for the inside. Nope, that gives me 22, so not going to work for this one. Again, I still like these numbers. Let's switch these around and try and see. How about if I put the 5 on this side and the 3 over here? Ooh, I think that looks good. 6D for the outside, 20D for the inside. There's 26. Again, sometimes you gotta try a couple combinations, but look for some things that might help. Again, knowing this, you guys are quicker with the numbers than I am. But just seeing some things like, well, what am I going to have to times by 15 to make this work? That's kind of a big number. I don't think I'm going to get something that's almost going to make it too big. If I times by 2, I get 30, or 3, I get 45. Like that's getting too big for 26. So at least I could eliminate one choice just by kind of using some number sense. And then I've got a few less combinations to look through. There's a small trick, but the biggest trick is really just experience, practice. The more you do them, the better you get. Let's see, -5 over 2 for this one, and -3 over 4 for my other solution. Good, there's solutions for that one. Okay, the last one I'll do is that last problem. Let's go through letter N here as well. This looks like this one could have a few combinations as well. I'm going to jump right to the part where I've subtracted 23p over to the other side, just because we've been showing that step a lot. So I think we've got that step down. You got to get it set equal to 0 first so I can continue. So 5p squared minus 23p plus 24, and that will get everything equal to 0 for me. Okay, good. Breaking apart some of the factors, well, luckily it's just 1 and 5 for this side. But then 24, oh boy, I got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, and 4 and 6, don't I? So I got a lot of combinations here that it could possibly be. Thank goodness I just have 1 and 5. So let's at least start by binomials. Let's start writing them down and start with that. So 5 and 1. Oops, 5 and 1. Oops, kind of sliding around on me here. All that equals 0. Another good thing, thank goodness, this is positive 24, so both signs will be the same. And I'm trying to add to a negative, so they're both going to be negative. That at least saves me a little bit too. Okay, well, knowing that I've got a 5 in here, that's going to times something by 5. That's going to make my numbers a little bigger. And so I'm gonna probably start with a smaller combination here. Maybe something like I don't think the 1 and 24 is going to work. Because 5 times 24 is going to be something big. I can already kind of picture that 5 plus 24, like that's not going to work. I don't think that combination is going to get me there. I think it's going to be one of these other ones that's going to work. So then, knowing that, well, let me start with the top combination. So what if I start with 4 and 6? So if I put 4 here and 6 here, Is that combination going to work for me? Let's see. Here's my outsides. Here's my insides for FOIL. Let's see. Ooh, negative 30p. That's already too big, and I'm adding them. Minus 4p. Oh, that's, nope, way too big, so that's not going to work for me. How about switching these two around? If it'll give me my eraser. Ooh. Well, it's not going to let me, I guess. Oh, there we go. Okay. So how about 6 and 4? Okay. That's going to give me negative 20p and minus 6p. Yeah, still too big, 26. So, and there's no other way to switch the signs around for this one, right? So I can't do anything else with this combination. So 6 and 4 must not work. Because the signs, I can't make them positive or negative or anything, so I guess that one's out there. At least we've eliminated a choice. Boom, that one's gone. So 3 and 8. Let's try 3 and 8 here. How about 8 and 3? I'm going to look as I just kind of eye it up. I think this might be the one. 5 times 3 gives me 15, so negative 15p. And then 8p, yep, those two add to negative 23. There we go. So we got to try a couple, but we found the combination that works. P equals 3 and 8 over 5 for my two combinations. Hopefully that helps a little bit for some of these problems. Again, I know I didn't do them all, but there's at least some idea on a lot of the ones that I know people do ask about.